President Bola Tinubu signs bill for establishment of Federal University of Environment, Oguni.
Nigeria Labour Congress suspends proposed nationwide protests following meeting with federal government.
EFCC arraigns former Executive Secretary NHIS on alleged 90 million naira fraud.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall take a look at rethinking governance within the context of state level and much later hike in telecoms tariff.
Okay, so the word governance is one word, but ask different people and you get 1,000 interpretations. Now, often it's used in the political context, you know what I mean. But at the state level, the stakes are much higher.
Absolutely. At the state level, governance feels distant, especially when you look at the state of our roads, the condition of schools, water, and healthcare centers. Sometimes it feels like we're stuck in the loop grand, election promises with very little follow through.
Absolutely, and Ray, you've touched on a very crucial issue, and at the third tier of government, and this is where the real change should begin. And often we see, it becoming a thorn in the side of political leaders. But as we both know, the answer is not that simple. So what do you think? That states often seem to be waiting for Abuja allocation instead of, taking charge and be their own, boss.
Oh, well, I'm sure the governors have the answers to that. Well, it's an old age issue, it didn't start with this administration. We can trace it back to the military era. While some governors are proactive, turning their states into economic hubs, others treat governance like a game of chance, waiting for federal allocations, waiting for directives, if you like, waiting for some policies to be implemented by the federal government before they take a cue, instead of deepening their role as a federating state.
Exactly, and states like Lagos often come up in discussions like this about development. But let's be fair enough, other states too are also making impressive strides. And we're talking about states like Nasarawa, for instance, leveraging its proximity to Abuja. The state is, boosting investments, improving infrastructure, and expanding industrialization. And I know two institutions there that have skills development capacity. And there's also visible evidence of leadership at work in that state. And I can tell you this for sure.
Yeah, you speak glowingly about Nasarawa State. Thank God you're not from there, so I'd have said, you're being biased. But maybe I should add Edo states to the list.
Well, you'll have to present your facts.
Okay. Well, for facts, I know that Kogi State too isn't doing badly. The progress since the emergence of Governor Usman Ododo has been tremendous. Developments in these states are testament to what's possible when leadership is intentional and targeted. Now, I don't say that Lagos, Nasarawa, Kogi, and maybe Edo,
Bayelsa, well, if you say so,
are proof that progress is inevitable when state leadership takes charge.
Absolutely. I really don't have any reason to doubt you about what Edo is doing under the new, leadership. But it's not also Edo alone. Even here in the Federal Capital Territory, we're seeing, development. But that's not to say that other states aren't making strides. We've mentioned some states, but we should also put in that class states like Ebonyi and Enugu and several others, that are being celebrated now for their milestones, especially at the grassroots. But what's the missing link for those states lagging behind? Is it leadership, policy, or even lack of political will?
Some would say it's a combination of all, of those factors you've mentioned. Leadership is key, of course, but accountability is just as important. Now, how many times do we hear about budget allocations? Yeah, the roads are still bad, schools lack teachers, and the healthcare sector, some are saying, very sick in many states. And, don't get me started on misplaced priorities. You know, billions spent on white elephant projects. Many have airports that are not functional. You know, all of that. Well, basic infrastructure, I mean, the things that will touch the common man are crumbling.
You know, I recall some time ago when states were given bailouts, if you also recall, you know, to attend to some pressing issues, you know, at the grassroots. And there were questions, you know, about what, you know, those bailouts were used for. And all that. And also, you know, some governors, you know, now complain about the increase in minimum wage, you know, and how, you know, it will, I mean, be difficult to accomplish. But of course, you know, we need to move beyond just election day euphoria. Governance doesn't really end at the ballot box. Citizens must also hold their leaders accountable, demand transparency, and push for policies that truly improve lives. And as Thomas Jefferson, you know, I like quotes because these are wise sayings. As Thomas Jefferson once said, the care of human life and happiness, and not their destruction, is the first and only object of good governance.
That's a philosopher there. I'm not one. But speaking of good governance, Claire, what about the clamor for local government autonomy? Now that it's been granted, what do we hope to see at the grassroots if implemented effectively? Now, imagine the impact, direct development, you know, at the grassroots, better service delivery and less bottlenecks, you know, at the state level. But of course, some governors aren't keen on letting go, you know, of that control. Talking about
they've no choice now. They've no choice now. That the Supreme Court had made that, you know, almost impossible. I think, but if we were serious about rethinking governance and local government, I mean, local government autonomy must be part of our conversation. It really must be. Strong local governments lead to stronger states and ultimately a stronger Nigeria. And as former Minister of Information Lai Mohammed will say, you know, well, he made this popular, change begins with me and you. So today on Good Morning Nigeria, we will unpack how states can't break free from the cycle of dependency, what true local government autonomy could mean for development, and how citizens, you and me, can demand better governance. So, I am Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak, and it's always a pleasure to have you join us. And lest we forget, Yenri, we also have another burning issue to deal with. Get on with it.
Yeah, the NSC and its earlier proposed protest, of course. That's, you know, a main topic. It's been suspended.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's not the issue. The issue is with hiking tariffs.
Well, you know, it's like governance issues, and, you know, the NLC are actually symbolic twins, if you like. One can often lead to the other, you know. Anyway, we'll take a cursory look at the issues promoting this incessant threat by the labor body. All right, Claire, looks like, you know, we need to continue to push for better governance, and that's why we're having this conversation. I'm Yenri John, by the way, before Claire reminds me. And just to take a cue from her, being a philosopher, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. So maybe that's why we're having this conversation, just so we can begin to see change.
That's by the way, is by Indira Gandhi. And we all know what Indira Gandhi stands for. Indira Gandhi stands for, you know, peaceful change, transformation. And that's why he's saying, you must be the change you want to see. Change begins with you and I. Get on with it.
That's the philosopher. I don't argue with you at all. All right, so it's Good Morning Nigeria. You're going to be thrilled today, so we expect you to stay tuned to the network service of the NTA. We're reaching you right here at our headquarters in Abuja. In the course of the program, we'll have newspaper review. Chukwudi Okoli Ubaja will join us then. But for now, Sawa Khalil Ibrahim ready for the morning news. Sawa, good morning to you.
Good morning, Henry and Claire. Highlight of the news now. The Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, has suspended its proposed nationwide protest following a meeting with the federal government delegation led by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume. The federal government and the organized labor agreed to constitute a 10-man committee to thoroughly study the NLC tariff structure and model and submit its report within 2 weeks for consideration.
The crux of the matter is that there is already a study that was conducted by the NCC that led them to arrive at this 50% increase. Now we are discussing this with Labour. Labour has agreed that they will look at that study, and then a small committee has been set up to look at that study once again and come up with a final resolution for the consideration of government and Labour in about 2 weeks' time.
President Bola Tinubu has signed the bill for the establishment of the Federal University of Environment and Technology, Ogoni. President Tinubu says this is a demonstration of a commitment to the cause of the people of Ogoni and their well-being.
It's more than the creation of a university. It is reaffirmation of our unwavering commitment to the people of Ogoni, the Niger Delta, and the entire nation as a whole.
The Federal Executive Council, this Monday held its first meeting of the year with major attention to infrastructure development across the country. The Council approved various memoranda for the commencement of infrastructure projects across sectors.
Graciously directed that, why the sections 1 and 2 are going on within Lagos, section 1 Lagos and section 2 Lagos to the boundary of Ogun State, that we should start another section in Calabar and Akwa Ibom. And that's what we have done, and it's about 65 kilometers by 2.
The former Executive Secretary of the National Health Insurance Scheme, NHIS, Usman Yusuf, has been arraigned before the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory sitting in Kuje. Usman was arraigned on a 5-count charge bordering on alleged embezzlement to the tune of more than 90 million naira. The defendant pleaded not guilty to all the counts. In view of the defendant's plea, prosecution counsel Francis Osani prayed the court for a trial date. Defense counsel Habib SAN did not oppose Osani's application for trial date. He, however, prayed the court to remand the defendant in the custody of the EFCC. Delivering the ruling after hearing both parties, Justice Chinyere Nwechonwu adjourned the matter to February 12 for hearing on the trial application. That's the highlight of the news. Good morning, Nigerian continues with Claire and Nyanri after the break.
I am Oluremi Tinubu, the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their social economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, 1 person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, 1 person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,400 456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary health care center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
Ready for school? Yes! My champs, they use energy at school. I know because imagine the energy they may have used up to return home this transform every day.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release to help champs get the most out of their active days.
Confidence is important in life's little moments. Strong teeth can help, even if they get her into trouble sometimes. A great smile is useful to break the ice, and making friends is easier when you know you have fresh breath. I give my family confidence with Pepsodent Triple Protection 123. Its antibacterial action formula gives them cavity protection, white teeth, and fresh breath. The confidence of 3 toothpaste in 1. Pepsodent Triple Protection 123.
But why?
No, see, say this big bull bag of rice no get the new big bull holographic seal.
Not true.
Introducing the Big Bull Holographic Seal Tape, your favorite authentic Big Bull rice, 50 kg and 25 kg. Now with holographic seal tape. This is to ensure you get the premium product from Big Bull Rice. Do not buy if the holographic seal tape is not on the bag or is broken. Big Bull Rice. Tasty rice nourished you.
With Nivea Dry Deo, you can keep moving forward in life with confidence. Nivea Dry Deo. Derma 72-hour active protection against sweat and odor with 0% alcohol to prevent irritation. Stay dry and fresh all day long. Skin is for moving forward, Nivea is for skin. Your favorite Nivea Deo, now in a smaller pack size.
We don't like to eat better, more nutritious meals, more veggies, but we want it tasty and easy too. Knorr Cubes, that's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic, and enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you and more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
At break time, when my champ needs to keep going, he's going to need his favorite snack, containing calcium, iron, and fiber.
Milo Snacks, snack of future champions.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
Nigeria is perched on a treasure trove of solid minerals. Gold, coal, tantalum, tin. but none is more critical to our future or the world's future like lithium.
Let's talk about illegal mining operations. What is our strategy?
All right, many thanks for staying with us. Still good morning, Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And up next is newspaper review.
Welcome. And Chukwudi Okoliwaja is right here. I didn't want to say Okolie Ubuaja. It's Okoli Ubuaja.
Yes, I told you about the vowel sequence
But
and
I know.
the tendency by a vowel to swallow up the other one. It's called assimilation. Claire, I'm excited.
That class will be after Good Morning Nigeria, of course.
Yeah, I'm excited. You are going to get a good dose of Turenchi today.
This period, this is newspaper review.
It's okay.
But
wait for it.
Yeah, you want to start off?
All right, let's begin. Let's see what the Nigerian pilot is offering this morning. The lead story here says 29 Chinese remanded in Kirikiri prisons. The riders, Federal High Court sitting in Lagos, remand them in prisons for alleged internet fraud. They were arraigned by Lagos Zonal Directorate of EFCC over alleged cyber crimes and others. The suspects, totaling 42, including one Malaysian and Indonesian and a Pakistani. Each of the suspects pleaded not guilty when the offences were read to them. You want to find out what's going on, all of that on page 7 of the Nigerian pilot. Let's move quickly away from that. Now we have police arrest traffickers who sold 2 one-week-old babies for 1.3 million naira. Tension mounts as 4 persons killed in SLK town over land disputes. Not nice at all. The stories are quite troubling this morning. Below that, we have I never obstructed justice in murder trial of Bola Ige. That's coming from Oba Ladoja. That's on page 7. And below that, we have Northwest governors to address out-of-school children, poverty, others. That's credited to Rada. Police deploy operatives to rescue abducted Edo traditional ruler, others. That's trending on all the papers this morning. And that's on page 7 of the Nigerian pilot. Alleged fraud, courts, remands ex-NHIS boss Usman Yusuf in Goje prison. And finally, from the Nigerian pilot, we have kidnappers kill 1 person, abduct 4 persons in Plateau local government. All right, you want to see what's happening? The Nigerian pilot to guide you. Let's see the New Telegraph quickly now. The New Telegraph leads with something completely different. Nigeria may lose multi-billion-dollar U.S. aid as Musk threatens U.S. aid shutdown. Riders, nation got $783 million last year, $7.8 billion over 10 years from agency. And Trump agrees to pause tariffs on Mexico, sets to face EU. All right, away from that, just beside the picture story, FG meets NLC on 50% telecoms tariff increment. Below that, Edo Guba Tribunal, PDP Godalo closed case with 19 witnesses. WAEC exams still free in Lagos. TCC required. That's coming from Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, and that's on page 5. Beautiful. And below that, Federal Executive Council okays 4.2 trillion naira for Coastal Road, 10 others, $1 billion for health, 21 billion for customs. Pages 2 and 5 will guide you on that. And we have no plan for 65% increase in electricity tariff. That's credited to the presidency. Some other stories right here, but I'll let Claire lead us with the Daily Sun now.
Yeah, you've left me with nothing to read. You've practically read everything from your page.
No, I guess there are other stories on the front pages of the Sun. On the front
You're
page of the
doing
Sun.
well. You're allocating more time to the parrot.
All right, I think you've read everything. All that you have read here. The telecoms tariff hike fallout is the lead story on the front page of the Daily Sun, but it also has some others about NDDC empowering persons with disabilities in Imo, and the communal clash, which took, the lives of 7 policemen in Osun, is also on the front page of the Daily Sun, and you have other picture stories right in front there. All right.
I can see NNPC.
NNPC, where's
cracking
NNPC?
Down on IOCs.
NUPRC cracks down on IOCs, others over crude oil diversion. Okay, it's also there.
NUP, those
that's
are
Nigerian Upstream Petroleum
people.
Regulatory, yes.
Yes.
So you have enough time now.
No, I do,
Yes,
but I'm
now.
going to manage it because I'm too excited. I told you that you guys are going to have sparkling English when I leave. I saw the man there. Anyhow, the person who sold babies for 1.3 what?
Million naira.
Million. Yesterday we said the one they reported, because it's become a daily affair now, should actually see her psychiatrist. If she can't afford it, some of us will donate money. Let them go and check their head. Peking for Africa, not everything. Anybody who sells a child is not normal. There's insanity lurking somewhere. That is my own assessment of it. So let them.
There's a song in Igbo language. I'll just say the last part.
That's it.
It's God
that
gives.
Children.
So those people who patronize the young ones, or who get these ones pregnant, so they can sell those babies. We like you said, we need to go back and have a rethink. We need to, I don't know how to put it, but behavioral psychologists will need to examine, those people, because this is a behavioral thing.
No, but the truth is that not everyone who dresses well is normal.
I know
insanity
from the girls who accept to get pregnant in the first place,
Yes.
knowing that the babies will be sold.
Yes.
These are young girls, teenagers, and then to the middle men or whoever or women who broker the deal with those who need babies,
and to those who want to buy,
and then the doctors and nurses who attend to these people, knowing that it's a trade.
Sometimes it's actually a cartel.
Exactly. It's
that draws membership from all the people that will facilitate the nefarious.
And unfortunately, the more they are cracked down, the more I think it's because they are being cracked down now.
They're hydra-headed.
Yes, that's why we're getting to we are getting to see more of such stories. Otherwise, in the past, you don't get to hear that.
And I like the mood you're building into it. What you did to make newspaper review interesting for me is the way you domesticated it. We are not talking like CNN. We are talking into the African environment. We are Africans. Whatever amount of Turanchi we speak, certain things are un-African. Let NOA help us tell people we were not like this.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yes.
That's the point of it.
Like I said, that song carries a message.
Of course it does.
It carries a very poignant message.
Who is singing the song to upcoming generations? There's a disconnect. We created anomalies, people who are neither in heaven nor hell. They don't have a culture.
Let's quickly look at the Labour suspending protests for 2 weeks. I think, again, dialogue is winning, and I know you will say that.
No, I said here, I said I didn't vote for Tinubu. I'm sorry, there are certain things I don't need to say on the air, but then I'm Chukwudi Ubaja. But I said Tinubu is not just competent. I said Tinubu is not just competent, he is a dialogue maker. Tinubu will get what he wants without throwing a punch. Give it to him. He would always, that's it. I said it when I started here. Maybe I sounded like a sycophant. I'm a journalist, for crying out loud. Maybe sometimes you tend to overstep. But say it the way it is. They are going to reach an agreement. And gentlemen, is this what you're quarreling? And we can discuss this thing now. It goes a long way. Let them keep jawing. It's very important. Nigeria may lose a multi-billion dollar US aid as Musk threatens US aid shutdown. Actually, yesterday, he was talking about, Trump was talking about shutting $440 million, chiefly for HIV in South Africa. And he said he was going to withdraw that because he felt that there was a racist attitude towards Cyril Ramaphosa's proposition to take land back from some people. They said they thought he was targeting white South Africans and all that. We later found out that is the man who is going to handle the reduction in waste and all that. What do you call him? The richest man in the world, Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Behind it. Remember, he's a South African, you know. So what I'd say is, Africa, search within you. You are capable of handling these things. It's either you're not thinking like that, or the will is not there. Or we don't have necessary cohesion.
We have to end, and to end is to again emphasize that U.S. has kicked in the 10% hike on China goods.
It started today.
Yes,
but then Mexico and Canada have a one-month reprieve.
Yes, but China has also, reciprocated the same.
I'm interested in Africa.
Yes.
Show them we can survive on our own.
Well, Chukwudi, thank you. I wish we could talk more on that, but again, it's a very delicate matter, and Nigeria is taking it in a step at a time.
Claire, kick me out politely. I've talked enough.
No, I can't do that. Chukwudi, please, we'll see you tomorrow. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
At break time, when my champ needs to keep going, he's going to need his favorite snack, containing calcium, iron, and fiber.
Milo Energy Snacks, snack of future champions.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
We don't like to eat better, more nutritious meals, more veggies, but we want it tasty and easy too. Knorr Cubes, that's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic, and enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you and more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
Ready for school? Yes! My champs, they use energy at school. I know because imagine the energy they may have used up to return home this transform every day.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release to help champs get the most out of their active days.
Milo! Salah's having to try and fight off Spence to his right. Gakpo wants to go alone and test the goalkeeper. And it's Darwin Nunez. And Kinsk, Alexander-Arnold hits it off the line. And McAllister wide. What a striking. Has he timed his move well? Dominic Solanke scores. Solanke.
Catch all the action live on Sporty TV. Brought to you by SportyBet. Play with champions.
across the savannah to the Sahara. We rise, the land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree. We swear in colors, we turn dark into light. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Diversity is unique, we are more than the solution.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Cup semi-final action. It is going to be fascinating. Try to get on the end of it. Isak does! And Isak scores! Wait for Arsenal. And Martinelli hits the post. Murphy finds Isak. Isak finds the shot. And Anthony Gordon follows in. Newcastle have a second. Trossard. Havertz and put it wide.
Catch all the action live on Sporty TV. Brought to you by SportyBet. Play with champions.
All right, many thanks for leaving it locked. It's now time to get into the conversation, but we'll have a background of first, which is on rethinking governance, a state-level perspective put together by Ibrahim Dan Hamidou.
As Nigeria continues to navigate the complexities of governance, some states are redefining the status quo. A few states have witnessed significant shifts in perspective, sparking a renewed focus on development and inspiring others to follow suit. At the heart of this transformation is a re-evaluation of governance strategies. Rather than adhering to traditional methods, these states are embracing innovative approaches to drive growth and progress. This shift is particularly noteworthy, given that some governors have struggled to deliver tangible results during their 8-year tenure. However, their successors are now building upon their foundations, achieving remarkable success. As we examine and investigate the intricacies of governance, it becomes clear that effective leadership is paramount. The ability to adapt, innovate, and prioritize the needs of citizens is crucial in driving meaningful change. Experts in governance will discuss the implications of these emerging trends, exploring how states can harness their potential to create a brighter future for all Nigerians. Join us as we examine the complexities of governance and uncover the secrets behind successful state-level leadership.
I'm sure you enjoyed that. And of course, it just gives you a deep understanding of what our conversation is this morning. And I'd like to thank Ibrahim Dan Hamidou for that beautiful background. It sets the tone for our conversation. Rethinking governance, a state-level perspective. So we're looking at governance at the state level. And we have all our guests from different parts of the country well represented. Let me begin the introductions with Honorable Kingsley Fanwo, who is the Commissioner for Information and Communications, Kogi State, and he's right here with us live in the studio. Thank you very much for joining us, Honorable Kingsley.
Good morning, Nigerians, and good morning from the players around the world.
And we also have right here with us, all the way from Nasarawa, Yakubu Lamai, who is the Director of Strategic Communication and Event Management to Governor Abdullahi Sule. He's also live with us here in the studio for the first time. Most times you get to see him joining us via Zoom, but we're glad to have you in person today.
It's truly a pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, also joining us for the conversation, but via Zoom, we have Timothy Ojoma. He's the Commissioner for Agriculture and Food Security. Mr. Timothy, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
All right, and then you can see just beside Mr. Timothy Ojoma, Professor CFA Brisbane, Commissioner for Health in Bayelsa State, and the co-chairman, National Emergency Medical Treatment Committee for the National Emergency Medical Service and Ambulance System in Nigeria. Many thanks for joining us, Prof, all the way from Yenagoa.
Yeah, thank you so very much for having me, and thank you, and good morning, Nigerians.
You know, one interesting thing is that I've had the pleasure of visiting all the states here represented, but a brief stay in Kogi, because of course when you're going to the south, west, you must always pass Lokoja. Yes, and you can't go to some parts of the east without also passing through Lokoja, so that's a confluence down. But I've been in Bayelsa and I've been in Nasarawa, so I'm suitably qualified to talk about these states. But let's begin with concept clarifications, gentlemen. And when we started our conversation, Erin and I, we talked about the word governance. I mean, every politician during campaigns will come and tell you, we want good governance. Good governance is a watchword and all that. But at that level, it means a different thing. But for the people, good governance also means, something else. And it's at the grassroots that the stakes are much higher. So let's start with our understanding at our different states of what the concept of good governance is. And I'd like to start with the Commissioner for Information and Communications. What does good governance represent for you in Kogi?
Thank you very much. Government has specific roles to play in the society. And when you play those roles well, then you'll be talking about good governance. And that is the provision of the basic amenities for good living and livelihood, and also to ensure security. You cannot have a very good society without the people being secured. Then you must be intentional and deliberate about adding blocks to the development plan of the state. That's why they said it's a continuum. So it means that from where someone stopped, you are adding blocks. You can deconstruct and reconstruct and make it a lot better. When you put all of these together, then you'll be on the street of good governance.
Okay.
All right.
So,
it's beautiful in words.
Yeah.
We hope that's what is visible, in our different states. Let's go to Nasarawa now, of course. So in your own view, what's good governance?
I think in 1982 or thereabout, during the time Shagari was recontesting under the platform of I think, NPN, somebody who was contesting to become governor was asked the question by some journalists. I remember very vividly, why do you want to become a governor? And I think he said he wanted to become a governor because he wanted to be popular. It's a huge departure from what governance really should stand for. Now, in the classic by Chinua Achebe, the little pamphlet, the one titled The Trouble with Nigeria, Chinua Achebe kept saying that there isn't really any problem with this country, neither with resources or human, capital or minerals and so on, that the real problem with this country is the inability of our leaders to rise to the hallmark of personal example. That was intrinsic to the problem of Nigeria, and that perhaps still defines why we get it wrong when we talk about good governance. Good governance is rising to the hallmark of personal example. During campaigns, you go with what I call political cliches. I would stand for probity and accountability, and I'll provide this and provide that. But you cannot do this when you don't have very intrinsic values, of, the greater good. What does this country actually represent to me? How am I related to this country in such a way that I'm patriotic and I love the country? And how do I exemplify this? So at the state level or at the national level, if you want to extol good governance or even exemplify good governance, rise to the hallmark of personal example. Speak and do what you say. Be accountable. Don't use cliches of accountability and transparency just for winning campaigns. Now, when you're able to institutionalize these values, then what you actually do is you espouse, you show, you exemplify, you illuminate good governance. And that, for us, is what represents good governance. And perhaps when we get into the core of the conversation, I can articulate even more what I mean by that.
I like the different perspectives that we've gotten, and this is very quite interesting. Let me bring in Professor Seifa Brisby. I know that Bayelsa is one of the states with the least local government areas, and of course it is a coastal state. And I'm wondering if the concept of good governance has a different meaning, for you.
Yeah, thank you, Claire, for having me. Like any other states, Bayelsa states, good governance is basically means the citizens feeling they are secured, they have equity, fairness, justice, and well-being is secured. And then there is this environment enabling environment for economic growth. Of course, for us in Bayelsa State, our governor is clear about the definition of good governance, which for him means that there should be shared prosperity. And you can only have that shared prosperity when you have peace, when you have security, when you have an enabling environment for sustainable economic growth, that everybody within that society will live in fairness, justice, and equity, and could be able to express themselves, the God-given talent, express themselves, access healthcare, when at the quantity and quality they need when they need it. So that is to us in this environment good governance, to deepen the conversation intentionally about shared prosperity through providing the basic things, the social amenities, the social safety nets, the social protections that are needed for people to live peacefully and enhance well-being of people. So that is what we are driving, and that is what we represent, and that is what we'll continue to do.
We'll get back to you, but let's head to local General where Timothy Ojama joins us. He's the Commissioner for Agriculture and Food Security. I've not heard anything about food, but we know that's like a basic need. And when you talk about good governance, people should be able to feed well, to be alive, to feel the impact of other, promises of a government or, if you like, a leader. So let's hear his perspective now, Timothy Ojama. Speak to us. What really is good governance? What does it mean?
Yes, thank you so much for having me once again. Good governance, as many have said, to me, is basically the provision of the basic livelihood to our homes, which starts from providing food in our home, providing food on our table, and ensuring that people don't go to bed with empty stomach, and which Kogi State government is providing to ensure that Kogi State becomes a food basket, retain that title of food basket of the nation. Just like you mentioned earlier, Kogi State is a gateway state, bordered by about 10 states in the country, including FCT. As such, we have so many neighbors that will come and take food from us. It's on record that Kogi produce lots of cassava, produce cashew. Even at this, sometimes you see us running helter-skelter to ensure we provide enough food. As such, the government of His Excellency Alhaji Ahmed Usman Ododo has been so deliberate about agriculture in Kogi State. Good governance to him is ensuring that his people are filled, his people are not hungry, his people can provide the basic needs, which is food in our home. Like I continue to mention to people, food is a basic necessity of humanity. Wherever you find yourself, provision of food is the start of good governance to us here in Kogi State. That's why we are so deliberate about our intervention in agriculture. Last year, you can testify to the fact that at the beginning of His Excellency tenure, food cost is high on the table. You check the statistics of Bureau for Statistics. If you look at what we had early last year and what we eventually we had at the end of the year, it's a clear testimony that we are deliberate about our intervention in agriculture. And we're stepping that forward to ensure that food is sufficient, food is enough in Kogi State. As everybody pass through, just like you mentioned, you have passed through Kogi, you have passed through Lokoja, you can always have a stopover to have enough food at the barest cost that we can offer.
Timothy Ojama, thank you for the invitation. Talking about costs, of course, that can be debated, but we will get to that much later. Now that we've all, given our perspectives about what good governance are, and what good governance is, and we have an understanding, the perspectives from the different states. I jotted, some things down. From Nasarawa, we're talking about, of course, exemplifying, institutions and all that. We're having, of course, prioritizing infrastructure. We have security, shared prosperity. We all know what we want to do at the grassroots. But somehow, our history is that governance is still very distant at that state level. Why do you think that is so? If we know what we want to do, if we know what is good governance for our people, why is this still a distant thing from the people?
Thank you very much. I think it also has to do with that leadership recruitment strategy. As at the subnational, you need to hire people who would see you as the hirer and therefore subject to you and ready to serve you. That's key. And, most of the people who come out to say they want to be governors, they want to be this, they want to be that, like Malan said, some of them just want to be popular. You understand? But there are people who are coming into governance with clear plans. They have their clear plans, they have what they want to achieve, and they've set timelines and strategies for achieving those things. And that's why the people also have a big role to play. If someone is telling you that, oh, I'm going to put a school here, I'm going to build a very big hospital here, then we should start asking them, how do you want to achieve that? When do you want to achieve that? How are you going to get resources together to achieve that? We must begin to dive deeper into some of these conversations during campaigns. And that requires an informed population. A population that is not informed may not be able to take those leaders to task. So the disconnection that we are seeing today between the promises and the reality is because some of them came unprepared. They were not prepared for the job. They had no plans whatsoever. They only come out to promise the people they will do this and do that. And that's why you would see that in some states, I was part of the consultation from day one where my governor wanted to come, and we sat down and we said, okay, what are the things we want to achieve? At that level. Then we expanded the team. Okay, when we need people's intellectual resources in healthcare, we bring them in education, we bring them in. It's not just about these are the things we want to do. How are we going to achieve it? Where are we going to get the resources to achieve it? And that's why you will see that in just 365 days in office, when the vice president came to Kogi State, he said, I am shocked. It's just 365 days. That is what you get when you plan before coming into office.
What happened before now?
Well, Kingsley Fanwo, listening to you talk about leadership recruitment strategy, and I'm thinking how the people can play a role in terms of recruitment of their leaders, considering what is, looking at our electoral system. In fact, at the moment, some have said that away from INEC conducting elections, the courts now decide who lead, people. How can we get it right in terms of the recruitment process, just so that it's only those who are qualified, those who the people want, who have a plan, that eventually get the opportunity to lead them?
Yeah, it's a very simple thing, and it's not as bad as politicians would want to paint it. It is clear when you want to contest an election, to a very large extent, I think we need to give credit to the Independent National Electoral Commission. They've put in place a lot of modalities, a lot of processes that would give our elections a very big reflection of credibility and integrity. And then it now behoves on the people to decide. And how do you decide? You need to listen to them. You need to check the antecedents. It's not just about, I will do this, like I've said. It is about checking also the antecedent. How do you think? It's also about their personality. Malam was talking about the personality. The personality of the leader is also very key. Is it someone who keeps promises? Is it someone who is humble? You will see from the address of my governor on January 27th, 2024, he said, you hired me with your votes. I will listen to you and I will serve you. That's a very big commitment. And you would see that with his humility, he's serving with humility and honor. And that will percolate down to the people serving with him. You don't refer to my governor as governor in Kogi State. You call him the chief servant. He said everyone that he has hired to serve are servants. Then he is the chief servant.
That's re-engineering the chief servant of Niger State.
That is the issue here is that you now have someone who is ready to serve the people. So the role that the people needs to play here is to look at all the people that would come out to say they want to be governor, they want to be local government chairman and all of that. Look at their antecedents. Look at their personality. Okay? When you look at this, then you make your own choice. It is our own choice. When they talk about vote buying, it's something that is very unfortunate in our society, because they give you 10,000 naira, then you don't check any other thing. That 10,000 naira will not even last you for a day. So we need to be very deliberate. The electorate must begin to form a very solid group that will take decisions that will determine who becomes their leader. That's very key.
I like that. I like that. Madam Lamai, again, for a very long time, it feels as if we are stuck in a loop. Grand election promises with little to show for it, and no even follow through, on the part of elected officials. And you heard him talk about recruitment process.
Yes. Well, my governor, His Excellency Engineer Abdullahi A. Sule, before he became governor in 2019, he was at one time group managing director, in fact, immediate past group managing director of Dangote Sugar. Before then, he was managing director of African Petroleum, well known since oil is really central to the Nigerian economy. And in AP, his is a very unique story, because when they took over AP, African Petroleum, they met the company in distress. It had a negative balance sheet of over 40 billion. And within 5 years, between 2001 to 2005, when he was managing director, he was able to turn around, that 40 billion negative to a positive of 5 billion. Now, that is clear, evidence-based benchmark. You come and meet a company, and if you have a company as huge as African Petroleum, one of the things he faced at that time was even, revealing to the public that this is the kind of company that we have. Because if you have 40 billion negative, that automatically means even if you sell AP, African Petroleum, then you sell every asset, everything of it, this company will still be owing 40 billion.
How has that translated to better life for the people of Nasarawa State?
Now, we come back to Nasarawa State. Just before he became governor, what did he do? He got KPMG, the international accounting firm, to do a blueprint for Nasarawa State. That's even when he was contesting. That articulated the challenges of the state, the competitive advantages of the state. Yes, you have land for agriculture, you have proximity to the federal capital, so how can you actually use this proximity the same way Ogun State, the relationship of Ogun to perhaps, Lagos, and maybe New Jersey to New York, or Maryland to Washington, D.C., you can use this proximity to the federal capital. You attract investments. What he did was he articulated what he called NEDS, Nasarawa Economic Development Strategy. And that has been the economic blueprint of Nasarawa State for the last 5 years. And in the last 5 years, he's been able to move the state in 5 years of governance from a state that was initially just an agrarian, civil service state with huge potentials that were untapped to become now, contestably, Nigeria's new investment, frontier. We've had 2 investment summits. In the very first summit, we had a deal room. We instantly generated over 500 million. We have Dangote Sugar Refinery there in Awe, which is the largest in Africa, even bigger than that of Sudan. So you're dealing with opening up the state for prosperity, for industrialization, and for investment. And as we speak today, Nasarawa State stands alone, perhaps, as being the only state or so that has a sovereign wealth fund. The state has a savings account as a sovereign wealth fund. You put back this monies in there, in the state, so you can secure the future. And that brings us back to the first thing I said about exemplifying accountability. You don't just come, for instance, in education, in the last 5 years, education has taken the chunk of the budget, above even the UN benchmark of 20%. The first year, he went to 26%, then 31%, then 36%. And how did you approach education? He did a baseline survey, went and studied over 1,000 public schools and about 400 secondary schools to find out, what usually happens, and maybe I can cap it up there. What usually happens with politicians is you create a school, you establish one that is on the road, and you point people to it. But you need to have a bird's eye view. So you look at the entire educational structure. How many schools exist in my state? What are their challenges? Do you even have qualified teachers? Which ones need to be repaired, and so on and so forth? So what you do becomes something that sets a template for the next administration to come. Because you're not just thinking for your own political gains and pointing to something on the road.
Yes, this is part of the grand election promises. But let me ask you again. I was just checking the IGR of Nasarawa State, and I don't know, you will have to confirm for us. It's about 2.5 billion monthly. I'm not sure if that's correct. If that's correct, what is the source for your internal, for your IGR?
Well, first and foremost, Nasarawa State is referred to as what they call the home of solid minerals. But before solid minerals is in the exclusive list, so federal government actually sometimes, often always, would just register the mining companies outside of, involvement of the state governments itself. But what happened was when he came, he sort of created some sort of an integrative web between the state and the federal, such that right now, there's an executive order that says if you're setting up maybe a lithium company, what we've been able to do, and you may have heard the Minister of the Solid Minerals, Dele Alake, saying recently, just last week, that Nasarawa State is central to lithium in this particular country. We have the largest lithium company in Nasarawa, local government of Nasarawa State. Now, basically, you block leakages, which usually what people would say. But if you're looking at accountability and transparency, we're using a central billing system. So you harness the IGR into a pool, and then you actually make sure that the natural resources or the mineral resources that you have in your state, like solid minerals, you extract very strong commitment from those who are actually excavating or taking from your particular state that, look, there's social corporate responsibility. Right. There are things that you have to do in the state. So blocking leakages, harnessing the IGR through central billing systems, and of course being prudent. Fiscal discipline has been able to move the IGR from where we met it over 4 or 500 million to over 2 billion. That is what is happening right
Fantastic.
now.
Many thanks, Yakubu Lamai. Very interesting listening to you. And of course, you know, like you've said, and many people who you know what's happening in Nasarawa know that the government is doing great. But people who will criticize, you know, the government of Nasarawa would say that the local government that is closest to Abuja, which of course is the Karo local government, doesn't seem to see the kind of development that, you know, compares with what's available in Abuja. So that, you know, I'm sure you know that a lot of people who work in Abuja live in Nasarawa State. But, I mean, the infrastructure there is nothing compared. So you wonder why the government has not prioritized, you know, that particular local government just so the people who are there, you know, can be at par with those in Abuja. But I'm sure you'll respond to that. But let's get to Bayelsa now. You made a very valid point talking about, you know, doing the needful and setting the template for the next administration. Not just, I mean, surface dressing, or if you like, doing things by the road that people can see. Some states' governments that, you know, do not have something as basic as water have airports, and funny enough, these airports are not even functional. So you ask yourself, why, you know, put so much resources into something that will not benefit the whole people in that state. But let's get the perspective of Professor CFR Brisbane now. You know, talking about setting a template for the next administration. That's something we rarely see, you know, in states. Or if you like, I mean, across board in Nigeria, because everybody's looking out for, you know, projects that would put it in good light, you know, just for the people to see, and so maybe they could get a second term or whatever. Why do you think, you know, governments, leaders are not thinking about projects that will better the people long term, instead of short term glorification, which may not necessarily bring development to the people?
Thank you so very much. And for me, I am so excited and happy about your question, because this brings to us to the crux of rethinking governance. And of course, I'm going to talk, portray this rethinking of governance through the perspective of the health sector in Bayelsa. Before I go into that, it's very, very important, most especially because of the question you asked, to tell Nigerians the type of leader that we have in Bayelsa State at this point in time, in the person of Senator Doyediri. This is somebody that came into power. We're going to do our 50th anniversary. And for every project that was handed over to him, he completed it, because he is not somebody that believes that, he believes that governance is a continuum, most likely because of his humble background, and then the fact that as a person, he is a political scientist, and he believes in the very, very fundamentals of getting prosperity across to everybody. So we have this serious investment in terms of getting roads to interland. So it's not about projects that has to be for the glare, or is not going to be beneficial in the next 3 years. All of us know that Bayelsa is one of the states with just 8 local governments, but one of the states that about 80% was waterlogged. What he did was to get these senatorial district routes that will go across all the local government, link all the local governments by road. And in this West Senatorial District, the 2 local governments there are now linked to roads. And of course, he's deepening that to take it to the Atlantic Ocean in Aggie. And of course, even in the central. So that, and then of course, even in the east, these are very, very difficult.
Looks like we've lost connection with Professor CFR Brisbane. We hope that will be, that will get better so we can hear his perspective on that issue. But let's get to Timothy Ojama now, Commissioner for Agriculture and Food Security, Kogi State. As we deepen this conversation, talking about good governance and how, governance can, better deliver to the people, not just surface that we see and all of that. I'd like you to speak to us about almost the same issue I tried to ask Professor Brisbane. When your commissioner here was talking, he said in the last 365 days. We know that the previous administration was also an APC-led government in that state. And of course, we know the secession story and all of that. Speak to us about projects that this administration is embarking on that probably was started like 10 years or that is being sustained to the benefit of the people. What does it look like when an administration and a new administration comes in? Whatever was done in the past is probably destroyed, forgotten. Monies just go down the drain. Some governments have gone ahead to set up factories. We've seen that in the past. And then a new government comes in and those things are abandoned. Why is there no continuity in governance, irrespective of party or, whatever affiliation?
Well, thank you so much once again. Just like we mentioned earlier, we have a governor that has a solid foundation before he assumed office. Solid foundation because there is a 32-year development plan in Kogi State. The whole essence of the plan is if there is no succession in government, just like you mentioned, you'll be seeing abandoned projects here and there. But the last administration, led by Alhaji Yaya Adoza Bello, laid a solid foundation for the takeoff of this administration by emphasizing on continuity, having a plan that would even exceed this present administration after its 8 years. The 32-year plan spelled out in its priority what we are supposed to have as a state, as a people, in terms of development, in terms of good governance, which is key around agricultural development, is key around infrastructural provision, is key around health provision, is key around education. The government of Alhaji Ahmed Usman Ododo is barely 1 year in office now, and the success story is all over. Before the government came in place, there were projects that were being embarked upon by the previous administration. He did not just continue on the project, he completed them and started fresh ones. Recently, we had a 1 year anniversary, which His Excellency, the Vice President, was in attendance. He was amazed with what he saw on ground. We have roads that span 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers within and outside Lokoja that His Excellency, the Vice President, commissioned. We have health facilities that spread across the state in all the senatorial districts, the 3 senatorial districts, in the 21 local government of Kogi State. We have educational facilities that were being lifted. Education is key. Who does not prioritize education, then you are leading to a doom in the nearest future. So His Excellency has consolidated on what the gains of the past administration in ensuring that education, health, agri, road infrastructure are properly enhanced in the state. It's not only stopping at that. Kogi State, just like my Nasarawa State counterpart was mentioning, Kogi State inarguably has the highest deposit of mineral resources as a state.
Timothy, someone just said to me now that in most rural areas in Kogi State, you have poor road network. Some of the roads are in deplorable state, and that is affecting trade and accessibility. But I'll leave the Honorable Commissioner to answer that when we come back to him. I don't know if Professor Brisbane is back. If he's not back, let me, bring in Malam Yakubu. This is a period when paper qualification it's no longer as useful as it used to be. And white-collar job is not there. And the story of the governor of Nasarawa State is a story of, you know, I don't want to say from grass to grace, no. But he started off as a welder. Yes, I had to read up about his story, how he started doing such, you know, jobs that we now consider menial until he got, you know, to the stage of, you know, being employed in the oil and gas. One would expect that with his knowledge in these, you know, skills and technology, we will see that being replicated, you know, in diverse areas, you know, in Nasarawa State. Is that happening?
Okay, let me quickly interject by talking about Karu.
Yes.
Now, 60% of Abuja, you know, the borderline was excavated or taken out of Nasarawa State. I know my brothers in Kogi, Niger, and so on also contributed to the creation of Abuja, but one of the biggest problems that people that live around the Karu axis, that's beginning from Nyanya all the way to Masaka and so on, is the traffic gridlock. Now, when His Excellency Engineer Abdullahi Esule took over as governor of Nasarawa State, one of the first things that we did was to create what we call the Karu Megabus Terminal. I think this entire country, it is the 4th largest megabus terminal. It takes 19,000 vehicles. Between Nyanya all the way to Masaka, there were 37 motor parks spread everywhere, scattered haphazardly. And that had to be so that it can reduce the traffic gridlock and also enhance even security. Now, recently, the National Population Commission decided as preparation for them to do this population census that they're about to do, they did some sort of trials. And they selected 6 zones out of each of the sub-regions. And Karu was the one selected. Now, they said what they did was they realized they had to sort of commit over, they had 10, but they committed 5% of their resources only to Karu compared to every other local government that was taken out of the other 5 sub-regions, the southeast, the northeast, the northwest, and so on and so forth, because of the population of Karu. Now, the population and what the country has been using, you know, to allocate resources is the 2006 population, and it allocates to Nasarawa State 1.9 million or so. That's basically, in Karu alone, you have over 3 million people.
Very true.
I mean, it's incredible. So that when we finally have the real statistics, so if you take the entire economy or the resources of Nasarawa State and commit to Karu alone, what you might visibly see would be a little dent, but we haven't given up. 2 things that we've done. There's a Nasarawa Technology Village, which we modeled after Silicon Valley in the United States, is in Karu. The President Bola Tinubu's, we have the Peninsula Estate, and the biggest is we have 13,000 hectares of land right across from Mitama. If you move into Mpapi and you break the hill, that is Nasarawa State. And from that axis upwards, what this governor has done, Engineer Sule, is to pay compensation for the state to acquire 13,000 hectares of land. For those who don't know the size, it is 10 times the size of Gwarimpa. It is larger than the city of Paris. It's larger than the city of Geneva. That's what we have, and we're building an industrial city right across the road from Mitama, and that is another industrial city that Nasarawa State is building. So you have better quality of life.
Does it have a timeline?
Well, yes, it does. The thing, it was started, and that's about talking about continuum now. It was the state, the location was actually identified by the previous governor, Umaru Tanko Almakura, but he didn't pay compensation. This one came with best global practices, and he paid compensation and acquired it. For you to build an entire city that has hospitals, that has, you know, better living quality, the way you would think of Maryland to Washington, D.C., walk across from Mitama, and you're in Nasarawa State. You have beautiful estates, you have universities, you have medical outfits, and so on and so forth. You require billions and billions of
But
money.
you know, some people also say that the IGRO, like Claire tried to quote, that a huge chunk of it comes from that particular local government. So the population should not actually be a challenge, but it's an advantage to Nasarawa State.
It is an advantage, but it's a double-edged sword. Most people that work in Abuja live, condense, congregate in the Karu axis. Their tax or whatever is taken in Abuja.
Okay, but anyway, that's a conversation for another day.
Yes, I think,
we're almost out of time.
Yes, let Fanwo quickly, answer the issue of deplorable roads in the rural areas in Kogi State, because someone sent a message that if you traveled deep down into, the rural areas, the roads are impassable, they are not accessible, there's no water, and of course there's so much, to do in those areas.
In the rural areas.
Yes, in the rural areas. So why is government distant from in those areas?
Thank you very much. I'm going to weave everything together because of time.
You have to, yes.
Yeah, because of time.
So that we can bring
what's there is when we, under the former governor of the state, His Excellency Alhaji Yahaya Adoza Bello, we had what we call the 32-year development plan. And apart from that, we called it, that's about rethinking governance. We call it the new direction government. The new direction in the sense that we had thematic areas that we concentrated on: education, healthcare, infrastructure, human capacity development, and all that. And then you could see that what we are having now is the best that you could have for continuity. This present governor served with the former governor for 8 years. So he has a perfect understanding of the system, the challenges, and how to provide solutions to those challenges. And that's what he's currently doing. For instance, you're talking about rural roads. The previous administration strengthened what we call the Kogi Road Maintenance Agency, KOGROMA, with a lot of equipment to be able to deal with these roads in the rural areas. Now, this government is deploying those equipment to be able to fix those roads. As I speak, in about 8 locations, we are having these roads, Mapa, Egbe. Across the 3 central districts, we are having all of these roads being fixed. We're also working very closely with RAMP, with counterpart funds to be able to fix a lot of these roads. More than 30 are ongoing as we speak, and they are basically in the rural areas. In the same rural areas, we are upgrading 160 primary healthcare centers to be able to render secondary healthcare services to the people. So the minor appendicitis operation that you need to go to the general hospital can now be done in your villages. So these are some of the things that are happening in the rural areas. So I can say, let me just say this word.
Yes.
Let me just say this word.
We need, okay.
Let me just say this word.
Yes.
This government is actually the government that has remembered the rural areas more than any other administration.
Okay,
we would have, eyes are on Kogi, of course.
Yes,
so
we would have taken you on the issue of recruitment, but we don't have time. Let's just take Professor Brisby. Professor Brisby, I know Primambri, it's a community that has potential for rise. I know Aloibiri, you know what that area. And these are communities that have longed for development. For as long as I can remember, most of the stories that we hear come from these rural areas. How far has the government of Duyudiri reached these areas? Please, if you can articulate it in less than 60 seconds.
Yeah, so like I said before, Senator Dayediri is investing massively in this infrastructure that deepens road infrastructure to all the locations. And as we speak, by the time you came to Bayelsa, probably getting from Permabri to Yenagua will take you about 2 hours. But we have roads right down to Angama now. So from Permabri to Angama, it's just 10 to 15 minutes. And that is the type of work. But not only that, the health sector is, and of course, in their assured agenda, there is renewal of rural areas and urban areas as part of the agenda, and also getting a robust healthcare delivery system. So our whole healthcare system in the state is linked between the primary, secondary, and the tertiary level. So referrals and enhancing of referrals becomes quite good. And of course, agriculture is also prioritized in the assured agenda. And with that, food production, and then of course the reactivation and we are getting a lot of inputs and products from the primary rice farm as well. So that is how the government is working to see that we have this shared prosperity for everybody that lives within the geographical space of Bayelsa through mainstreaming agriculture, critical road infrastructure,
because of time, would have to, end this conversation. But of course, it's a continuous one. We would have you some other time and then, of course, learn all that is happening in Bayelsa State. Many thanks, Professor Sefa Brisbane, Commissioner for Health in Bayelsa State and Co-Chairman, National Emergency Medical Treatment Committee for the National Emergency Medical Service and Ambulance System in Nigeria. It was a pleasure to have you again and continue the good work in Bayelsa. All right, I would also like to appreciate Timothy Ojoma, Commissioner for Agriculture and Food Security, who joined us all the way from Lokoja. Many thanks, Honorable Commissioner. Thank you so much. And of course, right here in the studio, I'd like to appreciate Kingsley Fowler, Commissioner for Information and Communications. Kogi said our eyes are on Kogi. So in the next 365 days, I would want to see, all that has happened.
What about Nasarawa?
Of course.
Karu.
Not just our eyes. Not just our eyes.
We live on that axis, so we know what we're talking about.
Many thanks, Malama Yakubu Lamai. Not just our eyes are in Nasarawa, all our body. Because, for her, she schools there. There's the connection one way or another. So we always feel and breathe Nasarawa. So we are watching Malam Yakubu Lamai. Our regards to the governor, by the way. DG Strategic Communication and Events Management to Governor Sule. Well done, and continue to do much more, like you have said. We appreciate you for your time. So that's our first conversation on Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get into the second leg of our conversation. You want to stay put for this one. Don't touch it.
We don't like to eat better, more nutritious meals, more veggies, but we want it tasty and easy too. Knorr Cubes, that's the secret. Made with real ingredients like chicken, parsley, and garlic. And enriched with iron, so your meals are better for you and more delicious too. That's the cocoa. Let's give it some accolades. Change your world by changing what's on your plate.
Ready for school? Yes! My champs, they use energy at school. I know because imagine the energy they may have used up to return home this transform every day.
Your champs need nourishing energy. Give them the new and improved Milo at breakfast.
It has nutrients that support energy release to help champs get the most out of their active days. Milo!
The business environment, to be honest with you, has been extremely hard on most Nigerian women's businesses. And of course, harsh for a number of reasons. There is no way you would increase or move subsidy and increase the price of fuel that it doesn't have the counter effect. It has been very challenging for so many women. I know that a lot of them have cried in one way or the other to us to find ways of intervening. But that is not to say that it is all doom and gloom. We will still have a few percentage of women that are thriving in this economy, but we hope that we'll be able to get a larger percentage. One of the things I've seen with even our local purchases now is that people are buying more made in Nigerian options of food, of clothing, and so on and so forth than the imported. So that, again, is helping some of our industries thrive. Surprisingly, the telecommunications is still doing well, and the reason is very simple. A lot of people are going for online options of skills in terms of training, communications, even remote working. And so you will see that people that provide services around those areas also thrive. But I think at the end of the day, it's about partnerships, collaboration, and influencing power from especially the private sector and even the public sector. But we really need the public sector to drive a number of things, especially policies, because the public sector has the national spread above even whatever we can do in our own small way. What has happened over the years is that even the government, for example, is being pulled from different angles by all these stakeholders. We need to harness ourselves to have strategic focus areas, and we should all be moving in the same direction, not using a competitive approach, but a collaborative approach. Secondly, in collaboration, we need to move with large clusters of decision makers. Instead of, the process of reaching out to individuals is painstakingly long and it takes time. And so we need to engage these stakeholders on a larger platform. I think it's very important to identify where you can get help in your own little way. And one of the things I've realized is that when you operate in silo, it is difficult for you to lift yourself out of the situation. Identify ways you can do what you are doing in a simpler way. And if what you are doing is no more profitable, why not find out what can you do in the meantime that will help you? You need to think outside the box and then connect. What you can do is also identify people and become a cluster to provide a service that ordinarily you cannot do alone.
Catch all the action live on Sporty TV. Brought to you by SportyBet. Play with champions.
The recent announcement of a 50% increase in telecoms tariff by the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has generated a lot of reactions and debate across the country.
From different quarters, this has met an opposition with the voice of the Nigerian Labour Congress loudest, that's the NLC. Of course, it called the hike an unnecessary burden on an already strained populace.
In strong terms, the NLC condemned the move and declared a nationwide protest for today, which has been suspended, just to, talk about the increase in telecommunications tariff. And of course, like I already mentioned, it's been suspended. Now, it proposed nationwide protest following a meeting with the federal government was later called off, and the delegation led by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, also, gave reasons why the NLC should shelve the planned protest.
Well, of course, dialogue would always, have its way, and that's why we, talk about dialogue, and the NLC has given room for dialogue. And we have here in the studio Honorable Ahmed Sajo, former Commissioner for Information and Strategy at the State, and I am very glad to have him join us here this morning. Honorable, good morning and good to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to see you too.
Yes. We also have here Benson Opa, who is Head of Information and Public Affairs, Nigerian Labour Congress NLC. Thank you very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
All right. So, this tariff hike, Ahmed Sajo, unnecessary burden on Nigerians. What does the NLC think?
No, I think, well, I'm not speaking for NLC, you know this, but let me tell you very clearly that there was no tariff hike. What they announced is tariff adjustment. And the tariff adjustment is supposed to be based on a cost-reflective tariff. I sympathized very seriously with the Nigerian people, who have to bear a lot of burdens of increases in very many spheres of our existence. Here we are, our expenditures are supposedly getting increasing every day, while our disposable income may either stagnate or be shrinking. That's the real issues on table. But again, on the other side, for us to be fair to ourselves, to be rational in this conversation, we have to also consider the fact that the telecom sector is private sector driven. It's an investment.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Before you continue, please clarify for us cost adjustment and cost reflective, because Nigerians will want to understand. You said it's not tariff hike. That is
cost adjustment so as to provide for a cost reflective tariff. Cost reflective means that, how much does it cost to provide a unit of service? Now, if you are in the private sector, you are in business, you are putting your money into it, does that cost, does the tariff reflect your cost of providing the service? In all of these arguments, because of the hysteria and because of the emotions in it, nobody has sat down to say, okay, now let us reflect on one thing. What does it cost the provider to provide you a minute of call? What does it cost the provider to provide you a unit of data? So it is when you know this that you will know. The last time tariffs were adjusted in the telecom system in Nigeria was 2013.
Yeah,
2013. I'm coming. You want me to explain to
you? Yes, but I'm not convinced about cost adjustment. You didn't. What does it entail when you adjust costs?
You are adjusting costs.
Adjusting
in plain
cost
terms
upward.
Is increase. Okay, in plain terms is increase, but
it's not hike.
Is increase.
But it's not hike.
But it is to reflect your cost of operations. Let's understand one thing. By 2013, the inflation figure was 8%. Today is 34%. By 2013, the minimum wage was 30,000 naira. Now it's 70,000 naira. By 2013, the price of fuel was less than 200. Today is so all of this, when you put all the cost, and then by 2013, data, for example, was on the margins of telecom operations. We were mainly concerned with calls and SMS. It's later that data and smart devices became so these are all the things you will put into consideration on table before you determine whether the tariff is fair or it's not fair.
Okay. All right. Many thanks, Honorable Ahmed Sajo. Whether it's fair or not fair, I'm sure Benson Upa will tell us. He has tried to explain on the side of the telecoms companies that, look at the circumstances. Well, tell us your own side.
First and foremost, Nigerians do not need his sympathy. Secondly, we do not need such patronizing language. And then thirdly, he was being economical with the truth. And then in trying to say that no increase, he was being unnecessarily academically pedantic. These do not fly. I'm going to start from a historical perspective. In the early 2000s, when Econet and MTN came into this country, of course, they did pay relatively huge sums of money for license that time. But even as market penetration was about 20%, what each and every one of them was posting was more than what the first 4 banks in Nigeria were making every month. What MTN, what Econet today known as Airtel, yeah, what they were making was more than our 4 banks, first 4 banks put together. And they were salting away a lot of money. That was at relative 20%. Today we have a market penetration of about 75%. And you have a huge market, population of 200 and something million people. And between you and I, we love talking. We Nigerians, we love talking. And we talk, and each time we talk, they make money. So now the question I would like to ask my co-guest is, what did they do with all of that money? Did they invest did they invest it, some of it here? What investment can he tell us, or they simply salted away this money? Even in those early days, they engaged in tyranny. That you were, that you were billed per minute, not per second. It was Glo, an indigenous telecom company, that broke that tyranny before they reverted to per second billing. Okay? Even then, I tell you, what did they do about it? In fact, they threw quite a number of things at the customer. You receive needless messages, they fill up your phone. Do they pay you? Did they give you any concession because they are doing this to you? No. So we have a situation, this is a situation of corporate greed, aided by a complicit regulator, NCC,
okay,
that should be protective of Nigerians.
Mr. Parr, let's look at this pragmatically. And, if going by the statistics we have, that the telecom is responsible for almost, 15% of Nigeria's GDP, and you consider the fact that, inflation is in 2 digits and going almost, 35%, I don't know if it is not more. The cost of production at the moment is quite high, exorbitant, and manufacturers and, all those operating within the Nigerian market space are really complaining. Now, do you think that this will hurt the telecoms and invariably our, the contributions they make to our GDP?
Take note of this. We are not absolutely opposed to an increase, but such an increase should be reasonable. 0.5%, 1%, 2%, 5%. You do not do a 50% whopping increase. What you are asking for is murder, blue murder. But in any case, now let me tell you this. Volume should determine the cost of unit. A simple economic logic. And in any case, there has been, let us look at this, from the business perspective. You have fixed costs. You have those things that have already been installed, okay? You don't go to the market to buy them every day. And then you have the operational costs, largely diesel and occasionally local security and all of that. That is in the, I think they call them base, something base, whatever. But today I want to tell you, most of them are using solar.
No, but the point
listen,
is,
I'm coming. I'm telling you.
Just hold on.
I'm telling you,
yes,
madam. I'm telling you. Listen, I'm telling you that.
Mr. Opa,
yes.
Just hold on.
Yes.
The basic thing you have said is that you are not opposed to any increase in tariff.
Yes.
But the percentage of increase is what you worry about.
Yes.
Beautiful. Let's because we did it. Our time is fine. Honorable Ahmed Sajo, Nigerians will argue that, okay, you're fine. You may increase, but your services to us, the quality, the quality of your services to us is appalling. It's appalling. There are charges unsolicited charges that you make from subscribers. What happens to that? Because you are speaking also in favor of tariff cost adjustment and cost increase based on the trending market indices.
I want to again say that I really sympathize with the labor movement today. Because,
we don't need your sympathy.
Because the language that labor leaders use today is it's not a very good language. We came here to discuss. I have a rational position to take. He has a position to take. It's not between and him.
We do have
yes. No. It's not between
I have not used a four-letter word,
and
I'm not going to be.
Mr. Benson,
you would
please,
respond
sir.
when he's done.
Please, sir. I have the language he used in addressing me was unfair, and I take exception to that. But put that aside. To say that the telecom, I'm not holding brief for the telecom. I'm being very reasonable. I am also a victim. I use telephone services, so I understand. But to say that the telephone industry had repatriated funds and did not expand, I think it's actually to be very uncharitable to them. Because if the penetration was 20% at the beginning and is 75%, these are, expansions that included establishment of infrastructure, telephone infrastructure across the country. And I think it's funds that are used to build those infrastructure across the board. But what I am trying to say is that in our discussion on table, we should not be speaking to emotions. We should be talking to facts.
But do you think 50% adjustments, like you have said,
I'm not saying whether it is fair or it's not fair, but what I'm saying is that the basis for determining what is fair and what is not fair should be operational costs. Let us all demand that we should be told that this is what it takes operationally to provide a unit of service. Then we can determine whether the tariff is fair or is not fair. You don't just talk because, okay, it's going to affect me, so it's a bad thing. Yes, but it's also going to affect the investor. And we're talking about Econet, we're talking about V-Mobile, we're talking about Etisalat. Where are they today? They've checked out.
But
so what we are trying to say,
checked out?
What we are trying to say is that for any rational discussion on this matter, two things must be done. First, we must give the operators and the regulator fair hearing, not call them names. And then secondly, we must demand that what is in it for the consumer, whether you are increasing or even you are maintaining the tariff, what is in it for the consumer?
All right.
And these are the things that we should put on table. These are the discussions that I want us to carry out.
Many thanks, Honorable Ahmed. Mr. Benson Upa, I hope you've listened to that.
Yes, I want to respond.
Concluding part of his statement.
Yes.
That we should listen to the regulator and the communications companies themselves to know. So that we can understand all of this. Yes. Do you think the NLC is right to oppose this adjustment without, a clear understanding of what it takes, for these companies to run?
I tell you this. First and foremost, let me respond to his criticism of my person and the Nigerian Labour Congress. In this program,
Mr. Park,
there is a right of response.
Mr. Park, please hold on. Please hold on, Mr. Park.
You can't shut me down.
No, we're not shutting you down. Please hold on. He didn't criticize your person. He said you criticize this person, and we want to leave it at that. We apologize to both. You came here as colleagues. Please let's get on with our conversation.
See, I have not, in the course of this conversation, used a four-letter word. I have not used a foul language. I've always said we Nigerians do not need his sympathy. That I would consider that patronizing, and I stand by that statement. And I want to tell you that the quality of leadership of Nigerian Labour Congress has been improving in every parameter. So let us not unnecessarily try to romanticize our history or the history of Nigerian Labour Congress. Having said that, what you got to know was the notice of the protest. Mm-hmm. You and I know, oftentimes there are processes that precede protests or strikes. Okay? So we engaged in all of that. It didn't yield any result. That was why we say we were protesting. Peaceful protest. And the right to peaceful protest is available to you and I. And I tell you this is not about the Nigerian Labour Congress, it's about you and I. We are being buffeted, pommeled from all sides. You understand? The the electricity people slapped us with a 250% hike. And these guys now, the telecoms company saw that and they said, okay, let us come with 100%. They came with that. I understand that there was a negotiated settlement between them and the regulator, agreeing 50%. Do you know who next is coming and what percentage they're coming with? The citizens of this country have every right to live in peace, to live in comfort, and not to be at the perils of the... But business-wise, I've just told you, there are fixed costs, there are running costs or whatever operational costs and so forth. And I want to tell you that the telecom industry has been making tidy money.
But some are saying that, you already mentioned at the beginning that Nigerians love to talk.
Yes.
I mean, if the companies say, well, they can no longer do business with at the current rate and they need to up the price, which is leading to this adjustment, can't Nigerians also decide not to talk too much? Would that be a way to balance this problem?
No. The issue is this. That the operator has to be reasonable. And if I'm to borrow a word from him, rational in their demand. You do not emasculate people because you are some kind of a monopoly, okay? For goodness sake, we are not talking about 5%. We are not talking about 10%. We are talking about 50%. This will not happen in Western capitals.
But,
okay, it will not happen. And in any case, come to look at it. You see, jokes apart, there is a limit to which you tax a people. These are corporate taxes. There are personal taxes coming, okay? The rate we're going, we will end up being stunted. We just shrink until we disintegrate. Don't be deceived, okay? 50% tariff hike is unacceptable to us based on facts and reasons. And thank God there is a joint technical committee now put in place by the government. NLC and government are going to look at the books, okay? Okay?
Okay, Mr. Pa,
yes.
we just have a few minutes left. There are those who feel that the NLC, who wonder why the NLC appeared to be selective, in some of the issues concerning its members that it responds to. I'm just wondering, could you maybe speak to that so that we understand, because there are
those who allege must have to prove. As far as we are concerned, we represent our members from all the sectors equally and broadly. Okay? We do not select. We do not favor any sector or subsector.
There are pensioners now.
Pensioners cannot accuse, in all honesty, let me tell you, pensioners cannot, in all honesty, accuse the Nigerian Labour Congress of looking the other way about their matter. I have, let me tell you, I've even sat in the Joint Pensions Committee. I know what we did, okay? So it's not true. Let me tell you, it is not true. Let me tell you something. I have had the privilege of leading pensioners to a secretary, to an SGF, okay, sometime in the past. He was SGF at that time. I told him, these people here, these people that you hear, see this one is blind, see this one has a stroke, see this one has diabetes. These are relics of humanity. I'm here to present to you relics of humanity today. Their only offense against this government, against the country, is that they did not help themselves to the resources of the country when they had the opportunity to so do.
All right.
And by treating the way you do, the government of Nigeria treats them, you are sending a message to those in service to say, help yourself while you can. If not, you are going to end up like this.
Has their story changed today?
I cannot tell you if it has changed fundamentally, but I want to tell you some changes have been made.
All right. Many thanks, Mr. Benson Opa. We need to round up the conversation. I'd like to hear from Honorable Ahmed Sajo what your opinion is about the way forward in all of this.
Well, the way forward is actually to put the facts on table. For example, if you say that the telecom operators are making huge money, let the books show. Let us look at it by the profits. And then the
civil servants say they cannot pay because they earn.
If you say you ask the telecom operators to pay their workers a higher fees, and you ask them not to ask. It's not one way or the other. But one thing is that when we sit down on table, we must ask the telecom operators and the regulator what is in it for the consumer. All of these issues that we have raised, these are our own opportunity to discuss them. What do you do with drop calls? How do you lay complaints online and be listened to?
So on the part of consumers,
how do we improve service? How do we expand? There are many underserved areas in this country. We are in the cities, we are talking. There are many underserved. How do we expand access?
On the part of the consumers, what would be your recommendation in dealing with all of this increase in every...
On the part of the consumers?
Yes.
Well, the consumers will have to wait for the outcome of all the discussions based on the fact, not based on the emotions.
Honorable Ahmed Sajo, former Commissioner for Information and Strategy at Adamawa State, thank you for your perspectives.
Yeah,
and Benson Upar, Head of Information and Public Affairs, Nigeria Labour Congress, and I'll say thank you as well.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, that's Good Morning Nigeria today. Many thanks for watching. Remain tuned to the NTA. I'm Ian Ray John.
And I'm Claire Adilabu Abdul Razak. Bye-bye for now.
Knowledge on Star Times Channel 359. We will showcase your school's graduation, excursion, inter-house sports, community service, school's registration of new intakes, and more. For enquiries and advert placement, please dial 0805-906-0657, 0803-553-5720, 0803-337-4201. NTA Knowledge, learning to broaden horizon.
So piece together your time wisely.